Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Blake Bettner and I'm in studio today in Brooklyn. Happy to be joined by a few people in the computer here. We've got Zach Kazan here in Concord. Zach, hello. How are you?
Hey, Blake. I'm doing well. How are you?
Excellent. We are thrilled to be joined by our guest today, who is the proprietor of a brand that has maybe I don't know if there's any other brand that finds itself at the center of our curiosity more often than H. Moser, Mr. Edouard Meylan. Edouard, thank you so much for joining us today on the One on One podcast.
Thank you, Blake. It's a pleasure.
So you are, of course, holding down the fort in Switzerland. You were just talking about you're in the middle of ski season there. So we really appreciate you taking time to join us today and talk about.
I'm not skiing every
Moser.
day.
Not skiing every day. You're getting some work done, I suppose.
I have some time for work.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about all that stuff and about what H. Moser is doing these days. Maybe try to get a little sense of what's going to be coming this springtime. Before we do, though, Zach Kazan, what are you wearing on your wrist?
I'm wearing my IWC 3706 today.
Excellent. Okay, excellent choice. I am wearing a forged carbon, I think, Formex Essence Leggera with the case suspension system. So the whole case kind of floats in the middle, which is kind of cool. So we'll be doing something on this watch kind of soon. Edouard, what do you got on your wrist today?
Nothing.
Oh wow!
Nothing.
Okay.
Oh man.
I have nothing because we have. I apologize. I just have guests visiting. We always have visitors. I'm wearing usually the Streamliner Gold Vantablack, and they wanted to see it. So they are in the meeting room with my team looking at the collection, and we only have one of them, which is the one I'm wearing. So they came just before and like, oh, can we steal your watch? So that's why I'm wearing nothing.
That is a reasonable excuse. We'll accept that. Is that a watch that this is a watch that you just you wear around?
Well, I change on a regular basis, but it's been a little while. I think I haven't been wearing a gold. Actually, I never wore a gold bracelet, gold case watch ever. And now wearing rose gold with Vantablack. I really like it. I mean,
it's a good combination.
It's nice. Yeah, I didn't think it would grow on me and be something like a daily wear, but I really like
it. Yeah. No, we were quite taken with the watch when we got to spend some time with it. And this watch features a couple of things, a couple of components that Moser is kind of known for these days that I would love to talk to you about. One of which is the Vantablack that you guys have been using, and the other is the bracelet on the Streamliner. We've seen a few Streamliners in person now, and we never cease to be amazed by the bracelet on this thing. So I guess we can just lead in with that. How many iterations did it go through to get this design right? And is this something that you kind of had a few ideas that you had produced and kind of narrowed in on it, or did you have a specific idea that you wanted to be done exactly as it is?
Well, the specific idea was we wanted to be different. How to do it was the complex part of it. To be honest, when we launched the Streamliner back in 2020, early 2020, we were looking back. I mean, when we worked with Fernanda, with the communication team, we're like, okay, let's look back at the process and maybe we can give some insights. And my feeling was like, we've been working on about 7 years on it, and the bracelet was really the element that can make it come to life. And from my feeling was like there were many iterations around the bracelets until we found it, and then it was really like 3-4 years before that suddenly there was this inspiration where there was this element, a small piece of bracelets that somebody presented to me, which was inspired by IKEA bracelets. And that was like the starting point in designing and really making it concrete. Now, this is what I remember. And then in September last year, and Fernanda was there, we had our yearly seminar where we invite everybody, like our subsidiaries, our key partners around the world to Switzerland, somewhere else in the future, but for a few days where we have some fun activities or scary activities.
Sure.
And then we discuss, we present the strategy. And last year, since it was the 10 years of Moser, since we took it over with my family, we had a bit of a retrospective. And I went through the exercise of looking at the presentations I did. and a few of the designs we were working on back in 2013. And to be honest, there was a design that looked very, very similar to the Streamliner that I already had in my hands as we did the first iteration of design in 2013. So it's interesting to see how I think the mindset, also the brand evolved, gaining maturity, and it felt right to launch it much later than actually when we had the original idea. Then it probably got lost and then came back again. It's always a question of timing.
Yeah, it's incredible. The bracelet is so unique. I know we always have kind of trouble describing it or what it's like in motion on the wrist to readers, and it's really something that you kind of have to experience to get the full effect of. You know,
It's very, very organic, reptile. I have a very small wrist, and I think it's what's interesting is really it's a bracelet that fits any wrists. And even if you have I can wear the 42 or the 40 and it fits perfectly on my small wrist. And somebody with a bigger wrist can wear the 40 and the 42 and it fits perfectly. There's a lot of, it undulates. I don't know if you can say that in English, but we're very, very satisfied.
The way the links articulate and drape is really kind of unlike any other bracelet that I've worn. It's really...
Yeah, you're right. I think that the key is because we have 2 points of rotation. There's one middle element that is hidden below the link, and then it's in between the 2 links, and then there's 2 points that makes it rotate. So the angle is much better. Mm-hmm. That's why it fits so well around the wrist.
And I think one of the more surprising or interesting components of it when you have it on and it's moving is the 2 different finishings on the links themselves, where the inner portions kind of have the polish to them. So, and that's kind of what there's like a sense of movement almost every time this thing is moving around, and like our organic kind of reptile skin or alien armor or something like that with these plates, how they come together.
So we call the first one the Green Dragon.
The Green Dragon. Okay. I like it. How do you see this design evolving into the future? You know, now I think that this bracelet is something that's so unique and kind of associated with H. Moser. Is it something that you think will be kind of a permanent part of the collection? Will there be different variants of it? Or how do you see this evolving?
Well, for now, we will definitely continue to use it as it is. Maybe different sizes, different material. But definitely, it's a core element of the Streamliner collection. I always said, for me, it was very important to keep the Streamliner as the bracelet. I think we will explore also maybe Streamliner with other type of straps maybe in the future, because there are certain limitations with the bracelet. First, it's extremely difficult to produce. And also there are some people who prefer not to have a metal bracelet. We might have editions where we try something else, but the core of the Streamliner is around the bracelet. Again, it's a beautiful case with a cushion shape, which I think fits other materials as well. So we will start exploring that as well. But for me, the core will remain with the steel, gold, or whatever material.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting to hear. We see maybe kind of a trend these days of cases getting like quick release strap systems and things of that nature. And of course, the case of the Streamliner is always equally as interesting as the bracelet, which itself I think is a nice platform. It's great on the wrist. Is that a direction that you think that could go with the being able to swap on different materials and types of straps?
I'm not a big fan of that.
Okay,
but maybe one day, maybe. Some in my team like that. I am more somebody who said when we design one type, I like to have one direction, one identity, and not have too much flexibility. But it's kind of maybe a bit too extreme point of view, because I believe we designed the watch, and that's why I like to associate one watch with one bracelet. It's of course the owner is free to change, and we should probably give her the possibility. Now, it has to be secured. It has to be easy to activate without scratching the case or the bracelet. So there's a lot of elements that we need to take into consideration. If there's a great way to do it, why not? We don't have it yet. I've seen some are protected with patents, so we can really use it. So we'll see. But for now, I think we have a great bracelet. It works very well, and we should not change it.
Yeah.
Otherwise I'll get
No,
bored.
I agree there. I agree there. It's not a watch that we put a NATO strap on while we had one.
It looks very nice on the NATO, though.
Does it? Okay. Well, I like to hear that. All right. So that brings us to like the next element of this watch, and increasingly more and more of your watches is the use of Vantablack. So this is something that you've been using for a little bit while now. When you started using this, was it something like before you knew what Vantablack was? Did you have an idea of I want an all black watch? I'm going to go find a material, or did you come across Vantablack and think that would be cool to use on a watch?
Well, we became very. I mean, back in 2012 when we started, fume dial was something we identified as what quite unique that makes Moser different from everything else, because that was the problem we were facing. All our watches looked like everybody else. So we identified the fume as our thing, and then we started using and reusing it and bringing new colors, etc. And at some point, fume was associated to Moser. I mean, now we see a lot of brands using the fume, but there was a time when fume was kind of the Moser dial, and for some people, it remains like the Moser dial. But you cannot live forever only with one thing. I mean, the risk is, you see today, everybody else can do a fume dial, not as good as ours. Okay,
of course,
but
naturally,
but they can. So we said, okay, let's explore other things. We started playing with stones, etc. And then came the question about black dials, and we said, if we do a black dial, we cannot do a black dial like the others, but we cannot do a fume dial because fume is from one color to something darker. As our base, we evolved since. So we said, how do we do a black dial? Black to black stays black. So we said, let's make a black dial that is different from others. And that's where we started looking. And that's where I came across the Vantablack and thought, wow, that could be our thing. Talked to the watchmakers and they said, forget it. There's no way we can work with that kind of material. Mm-hmm. And then we said, oh, that's going to be a fun project. And then it was a challenge for them, but they really enjoyed it. They had to find solutions to develop tools, to develop special packaging, entire new process, and they love the result because, I think they like to be challenged, and especially when it works.
Yeah. So I guess it's interesting because it's maybe come a long way. As now we see you using it with or in conjunction with hour markers, which I understand was a bit of a challenge, or one of the challenges of working with this material. It's very sensitive.
Yeah, and you cannot apply anything on top of it. So the question was, how do we create indexes if we cannot apply indexes on top? That's where we started working with kind of sandwich dials, where we create the pattern, the holes before we grow the Vantablack structure on it, and then we apply whatever we want behind it to get the indexes appear from the back of the dial. Yeah, but that was in the beginning something where we said it's not possible. That's why we started. We said, well, nobody can copy us because we cannot put indexes. And then we started developing. I challenged the team. I said, also, I want to create like a mosaic of black. And Vantablack would be one of the color, and then other blacks. And because of the Vantablack is so black, we would see the difference because you need the contrast. Otherwise, the first Vantablacks we did, you don't even understand how black it is because there's nothing around it. Like, we just had the hands. That's why at some point we even did a version where we had black hands, so that the black hands being so gray in comparison, you realize it's actually very, very black.
Yeah.
That's why the tourbillon is so interesting, I think, because it provides this natural contrast where light can pass through the dial, and surrounding it, you just have this void. It's very striking.
Yeah, it helps also like having this tourbillon almost like floating. On the top of the dial.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And it's like the bracelet. It's almost impossible for us to describe, like in an article that we're writing about. It's something that you really have to kind of see to.
But the problem with the picture is cannot create the perfect black. So it creates a kind of a black. It's the level of black you can get on your screen, which is never going to be the level. But the other problem that we face is the sapphire. Always trying to get. We stopped using the Venturer because Venturer being curved creates more reflection than if you have a flat sapphire. And that's another barrier to the Vantablack. But we cannot put the Vantablack without something to protect it. So that's why we have the sapphire, but we need to create a sapphire that is as transparent as possible.
That's an interesting point, because I was going to ask you kind of how you plan to continue using this. And I know last year you quite famously had the entire watch was Vantablack at your stand, which was and you had a Vantablack backdrop behind it. So if you looked at it from head on, you literally could not see the watch except for like a set of a set of hands. I understand this was kind of like conceptually interesting. Is there any way that something in a similar vein could end up in a production viable watch?
I'm going to upset people when I say yes. I'm a dreamer. I think one day we might be able to do something. When the people we work in terms of technology, sorry, Nano16, they said, well, it's frankly, with current technology, it's impossible. They don't think they can do it. What we wanted to express with this watch is really how we work into materials and looking into the future, exploring and pushing the boundaries, sometimes creating things that are not possible to wear. Vantablack is something, if you wear it, it will just slowly fall apart. Time. But it's also maybe the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Watch that will kind of a special patina. But a full Vantablack like this, no, I don't think it's going to be feasible anytime soon.
After that show, did you have any of your collectors asking to buy that watch to put on display, like in their homes?
So many. We had so many.
Okay.
So I wanted to keep it at the manufacturer, but we said, let's put a crazy. I think we said if somebody pays more than $1 million, then maybe we sell it.
Right,
otherwise, we want to keep it as it has a lot of value to us. We're creating now we have so many of those conceptual watches that we have developed over time. Moser Nature, which is a little bit dry now. There's the cheese watch. We have the Swiss icon watch. So we slowly have enough watches to create a small museum. I think it's important to keep them. It's part of our legacy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, you just mentioned all these watches kind of looking back. You've always got to watch. You've had watches that kind of are, maybe a deeper clue into the personality of this brand and what sets you guys apart from a typical Swiss watch brand. How do you see yourself amongst your contemporaries in Switzerland? And like, why are watches like this important to kind of set you guys apart, or at least show we think differently about this stuff?
We're an independent brand, and we love to believe that being independent means not only being creative, it's also being, should I say, a bit of activists. I think there are very important topics in our industry that are taken for granted. There's a bit of an establishment that we'd like to sometimes challenge. When people talk about the Swiss made and how it's, there's a bit of an omerta where people say around the world they believe that Swiss made is 100% Swiss. It's not true. I think our generation, the new independent watchmaking, believe in transparency, in honesty, in being true and connected to the customers with as much authenticity and honesty as possible. And the reason why we believe it's also our responsibility in a way, because we don't have this huge hierarchy and this crazy people behind us protecting lawyers, etc. We have a little bit more of freedom to express certain point of view that maybe are a little bit different from the traditional ones in our industry. But I think it's important. It stimulates creativity. It stimulates discussions, makes, I would say, and I hope our industry evolve as well. And we're probably one of the brand that has found a formula that works well. But I think there's a lot of people among the smaller ones that are quite vocal. Sometimes just through interviews, by stating their point of view, by calling out others, which bigger brands never do. You never talk about another brand. You never, say what is right or what is wrong. You just, you're supposed to talk about you. You talk about what you've done, and you know that anyway, the journalists or the media will only talk positively about you. That's the Swiss watch industry.
Sure.
At Moser, we believe there's maybe a better and another way, which will be better for our industry overall long term.
Yeah. I sense that there's also kind of like, obviously some of the watches and some of the projects that you take on, some of the one-off watches, they say a lot about your personality and how you view this industry. And there's kind of like an underlying like tongue-in-cheek element to it, or almost like a not a humorous element, but certainly something that's like, we're not taking ourselves too seriously.
That's our way to communicate, but the message behind is serious. Sure. It's not because we made a cheese watch or we made a Swiss Alp watch, looks like a connected watch, or that we made the Swiss icon watch. was not just for fun. I mean, we had fun doing it. We tried to use humor because we feel that's what talks to our community the best. Being a human brand, we think humor is something that connects to the people, and that's the language we like. I mean, I work with my brother, with a few members of the team that have a similar sense of humor. I think we don't have to be always politically correct, and we like to have a good laugh, and we have kind of maybe the same movies that we liked, etc. And then when you come to like doing with the zero budget our first campaign, then that's what came out naturally, and then it worked. So we continue to work with it. But always, what was behind was important to us. Being to talk about the Swiss made, talking about connected watches, talking about the lack of creativities among certain brands that just don't produce anything and just do marketing. Being about talking about our corporate social responsibility, talking about collaborations in general, which is what we did with MDNF. There's always a serious topic behind. And, not everybody understands it, but that's fair enough. I think we like to work maybe in a more symbolic, cryptic way. And again, we're not trying to sell 100,000 watches, so we don't care if not everybody gets it or if even not everybody likes it. What's important is to have people who actually, those who understand actually love it, and then that's more important than having everybody's just like you. Everybody likes you. Why would they? I mean, we're creating very expensive watches. Are quite special, take a lot of time to produce, to develop, etc. And it's a big investment for our customers. Some have a lot of money, but still a lot of investment. And there's a lot of alternatives. So you need to make sure that they're blown away by whatever stands behind. For me, every watch sells a story. And it's not just the next three-hand watch. Everybody can do that. So at Moser, we're trying to tell a story, create a piece of art, something that creates emotion, positive or negative. I don't care, as long as it brings emotions. If it's negative for someone, it will be positive for somebody else. And that's the most important.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think some of the watches that you mentioned there have certainly left an indelible impression on people that have seen them and how they take it and what it means to them. I think might be different. But I was at an industry event just over this past weekend with a bunch of other journalists, and someone brought up that Swiss Icons watch, and we all kind of talked about it for a bit. And I said, "Oh, I'm having Edouard on the podcast on Monday. I'll bring it up to him." So I'm happy to hear you talking about that, and it's still just kind of like a part of the journey that kind of shows, that kind of paints a clear picture, I guess, of who you guys are and how you view this stuff. So,
well, the Swiss Icon was a tough period when we launched it because some people gave us a very hard time, and I think it was not. I think they overreacted, but fair enough. We probably didn't communicate it right, but I think it was probably one of the strongest elements of what we've done in the past, and still a lot of people refer to it. Every time I travel, I meet people. I think there was a message that a lot of people understood. A lot of people didn't want to hear, but a lot of people understood. And in the end, that's the most important. And I'm super proud to have this watch here, and every now and then take it out and remember what we did at that time. And yes, it was a painful few weeks around there.
Sure.
People made sure it was painful to us, but frankly, no regret.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear it's still there and being enjoyed and by somebody at least, and it's definitely kind of right there in the memories of all the people that were around to see it released. So you've got another watch that's just recently come out that also uses Vantablack, but it's different for another reason. And it's the, kind of the concept of using this QR code as like the aesthetic of it in like the physical manifestation of the watch itself, which kind of pushes into a different realm than, well, this is just a tool that you use to get from like your digital device to here, but you've taken that and made the actual literal code the watch itself. How did this watch come about? Like, what was his reaction been to this watch? Tell us. It's the Genesis. I don't know all the ones and zeros. I apologize.
Yeah, it's called the Genesis. Well, let's not talk about the binary code.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we like to do it full blast, and I mean, the product almost came last. To be honest, it's at some point we said we need to use the Moser formula, so we need a very symbolic product to represent the project Genesis, and then find the watch. Maybe I'll talk about that at the end. But the start was really about Moser. We believe we can, because we're small, be a bit of pioneers. Our founder was a big pioneer in Switzerland and in Europe. He contributed a lot to our region, building the first hydromechanical dam 150 years ago on the Rhine River, bringing a lot of the famous, building a lot of famous companies here in Switzerland, and making the entire region of Schaffhausen famous, and contributing to building IWC and many other big industries. But so we have this legacy, and we've been continuously trying to pioneer and explore, and a little bit what we mentioned before, it was part of that process. So when it came to Web3 or blockchain and all those elements, we were always wondering, is there any future? What's in there? I mean, we see like those like kind of games. There's the virtual reality, but there's also the blockchain. What is it? How can we use it? And we always feel that this is something that is evolving very, very fast. But at the same time, for me, this I saw in parallel the always seen how the secondary market has been growing and booming and developing very quickly, with a lot of our customers coming to us and asking questions about where is this watch coming from? Has it been serviced? Who is this guy who is selling it to me, etc. And I thought, can we kind of find a way? I mean, my responsibility as the head of Moser is not just to develop, produce, and sell a watch. I think that's just the beginning of the journey. It's really about what's happening afterwards and trying to protect, secure, ensure the process afterwards. And I believe blockchain technology and Web3 can really enable a lot of opportunities there. And that's what we tried together with Deloitte and other very interesting innovative companies like Zurich Insurance, Crossmint, and Salesforce, to kind of build an ecosystem that would help the consumer through their journey of buying, owning, and selling a watch. And I think the key element in protecting the value of a watch is about transparency, certification, authenticity, and insurance. So that's why we tried using blockchain to answer those questions. Is who is the buyer? Who is the seller? Where is the watch coming from? Has it been serviced? When? By whom? Is this watch protected? What's inside? All those elements. And as we know, I mean, a lot of things can be forged. And blockchain, of course, it's evolving, but it gives a lot of security around it. We thought if we own the data, we can protect and ensure that the data is right, and create this connection between customers. Have a KYC, know your customer process, having an insurance, having a certificate, having a lot of elements that protect the watch. I think the value of the products will go up because people will feel much more comfortable. And that's what we try to build around. But because we Moser, we wanted to create also something very visual, very provocative. And that's where we created the metaverse universe, because we thought it's fun if we go in the Web3, we might as well create the Moser manufacturer in the metaverse, have like us with our cows and our dogs and invite people into our metaverse. Sure. Let's have fun. Yeah. So we did that, and we had a press conference. It's a new technology. There are some bugs, but it was fun to bring people there, and then they can go and visit to see what's our history, what we produce, the different collections, like a 3D website. If we simplify it. And then we created NFTs because we think, I see a lot of people speculating on NFTs. I never bought and never speculated on NFTs, but I thought, is there a value in NFTs? And we thought, if I was an owner in 100 years from now, I buy this watch, what would I want to know? And I thought, maybe I want to know who created it and what's the story behind it and when was it actually created. So we created those time capsule, which is like stored in the blockchain that is linked to every single watch, where you see, I'm there, because I'm the current CEO and I have the chance to do that. So I'm there with like the newspaper of the day of Schaffhausen, the Schaffhausen Nachrichten, with the date on it. Yeah. And we take a video unique for every watch, where we go then on to the master watchmaker, whoever on that day is assembling that particular movement. We have an atomic clock and we say, listen, it's the 23rd of February. It's 10:30 a.m., 35 seconds. And Martina is now putting the last screw. And you actually see, because that's the way it works. You put the last screw on the escapement and the watch comes to life. So you actually have stored on the blockchain a unique video documenting the moment where your actual watch has come to life. I wished I would see my great-grandfather's watch. I think it's fun. And that's what we wanted to create, and trying to think, how can we create value for the customers? We cannot even trade those NFTs for now. So yeah, I think that was the process for us. It's really, again, authenticity, certification, protection, insurance, creating value through NFT art, which is for us, this is the art, the way we see it. And then the last part was, how do we create a product that kind of symbolizes all this? And that's how Genesis came to life.
Incredible. So I think you've explained something rather reasonable in how all of these technology are applied to the watch. I'm assuming this will be applied like to all Moser watches and not just this watch.
That's the objective. Well, we started with 50. So we have this triptych. So they buy the first watch. They all sold out, but you buy that. And then you will have the possibility to acquire not 2 other special watches, more conventional, but they're going to be interesting also. And then all those features are for now just for those 50 people. Because we're small, we have limited resources. So we wanted to pilot and test. I don't know where we're going to be in 5 years from now. I hope that we can apply the global insurance for our watches. It's a 3-year insurance. If your watch gets stolen, or even if you lose your watch, you get full money back. I hope we can implement that for all our watches in the future. Certification, authentication, tracking of the services, partnership, membership to our club, and those kind of things through the blockchain. I hope we can implement that. We might not implement everything, and for sure, we're not going to have an engraved QR code on every single Moser watch in the future. That's for sure.
Sure. Fair enough.
It's interesting to see how, like, we've seen a lot of brands kind of like make these steps towards, like, the metaverse and the blockchain and using this technology. And I just wonder what will, how we'll look back at these like early days, like 15, 20 years from now. It's easy to kind of like, poke fun at like the metaverse aspect now, but like so few people have really kind of like jumped into that field. Years from now, I think people will have a very different perspective on this. And I think there's real utility, as you describe, in the blockchain technology to to track ownership and verify authenticity and so forth. It seems like a natural technology for for the industry that we're in.
Yeah.
To be honest, I feel like we are in the year 99, 2000 of e-commerce, where we were all like, there's no way people will buy online. And there's so many doubts and people like criticizing this technology. And then the bubble is burst, and then we got a clean sheet to rebuild on. And I think we are in those years with this. I think you can be very opportunistic in trying to trade like digital versions of your watch and try to make money out of it. I see it opportunistic. Your customers will lose money, most likely. You can just create a metaverse and have people play in there. Okay, that's fun for 2 days. And I think there's other things. And I don't know what's going to be metaverse and Web3 and blockchain in 5 years from now. I have no clue. But I want to be part of the process of exploring it. I want to ask myself questions and make mistakes. And then hopefully we'll come out of it, others, or us as well, bigger, stronger, with more value for our consumer future owners and current owners. But it would be obviously easier to stay in bed and not do it and not be exposed to criticism. But to be honest, we used to it as Moser, and we believe it's part of our DNA and responsibility to push the boundaries. And we like that.
Sure.
Again, it's interesting to see how people react to it. It's very polarizing projects, and like everything we've done before, and people come back a year later and say, "Oh yeah, now I start to get it." So suddenly they will see the next watch, and then suddenly they will see how we implement global insurance on our watches, and they will see how we certify and how you get access to a lot of special features through this technology. And then there won't be question asked anymore.
Yeah, I like that the watch, it's not hiding it. The fact, we get press releases for a lot of watches, and it's kind of like, oh, and there's also like this NFT component. It's kind of like, what does that mean? This watch itself kind of forces you to confront. It's kind of diving into the deep end, like right off the bat, and saying, oh, we're fully embracing it, and look at it.
It had to be holistic. We wanted to be the watch to be just a little bit like of the tip of the iceberg, the visible part. The big part is below the water.
The big.
And that's if you're interested, and we open a small window through the watch, and you dig in, then you see really the value behind. But the people who hide behind Instagram and look at the watch, of course, they will say, oh, this is ugly and stupid, even though I don't think it's
Sure. So we see a lot of brands coming into the like pre-owned space and wanting to take more ownership over the experience of how these watches are change hands. So, is this kind of like your first step into taking control of that component, like having a CPO program of sorts?
So we had a CPO program a few years ago. Then we started seeing the prices getting crazy. It's difficult for us to resell a watch above retail, or even below retail. What's the value of the watch? So I think there's a lot of pure players out there. I think it's, again, our responsibility to secure, to authenticate, to protect, but I don't want to be the deal maker. I think there's enough Watchbox and other pure players in that field. I want to support them to make sure that for them and their customers, process is as easy as possible. So there's no frustration on one part or the other, but I don't want to be the one capturing the premium on this. I don't want to be the one deciding on what the price is or should be for my products in the secondary market. It's a free market. I think it should be there must be an equilibrium somewhere, and it's not for me to dictate. But it would put me in a very difficult position if I were to be part of that market. So that's why I want to be a facilitator. I don't want to be an active actor.
Okay. So we are kind of fresh into 2023. What can we expect to see from Moser this year?
The unexpected.
The unexpected. Okay.
Now we're gonna have a little bit of everything. We're gonna have endeavors. We're gonna have pioneers. We're gonna have streamliners, and even some heritage. I think we can launch everything this year. We're gonna start soon with a very nice endeavor. 2 weeks from now, Fernanda. Really exciting. It's my. To be honest, since I'm 18, my first very special watch that I received from my parents. Not the first one. The first like high-end luxury watch I got was in a very special material from AP. And since then, I've been dreaming of using that material that is so difficult to work with, and because I want to have it like with the Moser satinage and the Moser polished. A lot of people lost their hair on that project, but finally it's coming to life. So we're gonna have a beautiful, amazing release mid-February. I don't know how when you'll be publishing, but the dial is amazing. But the case, oh my god, it's pure pleasure.
Well, I'm really excited about that. Fernanda definitely set one aside for us there. She's also in the computer, by the way, so she's not amused.
Hi guys.
Hey, Fernanda, our good friend, of course. No, this sounds exciting. So you mentioned an AP being your first kind of big luxury purchase. Do you still have this watch?
Yeah, for my 18th birthday, my father was the CEO at AP at that time. So yeah,
okay. Okay.
And then, I received a small Royal Oak 36 mm.
Okay. Well, that stands to reason. Then, are there any other brands that you like particularly admire or pay attention to that are other than Moser? And like, do you have your own collection of watches?
I have a few APs from that time, so I really appreciate what they were doing. The classic Royal Oaks, a few of their early collabs or sponsorship. I have a few of the brands I worked with, British Masters. So I had Graham, I had the Maurice Lacroix. I have some Meylan because that's my family name, but these are pocket watches from the 19th century and early 20th century. And so I collect a few of those. And then I like the old pocket miniature Peters, so I collect those. But otherwise, from the brands, modern brands, I like independents. To be honest, I like the independent brands. I like peers. Of the craftsmanship, I like what, of course, the can be enough, the Bethune, Journe, Multiline, those kind of guys. I really like what they do. I like in general. I like also German or Japanese brands because I personally like minimalism, Bauhaus style, and I think they're very close to what we have also sometimes on the side. It's definitely a source of inspiration. The details, the beauty of the details. We have not relying on the Swiss made to fix a price, but really on quality and great value. So these are the brands I like.
Yeah, very cool. Well, so you mentioned
and they don't have to be very, very expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's what we talk about all the time. You mentioned a few independents there that we're all big fans of, or work and MBNF and these kind of guys. I know that you've already collabed with MBNF. You've had also some pretty unexpected collaboration partners, like the streetwear brand Undefeated,
Undefeated.
which you did a Streamliner with. That we had our hands on was quite fabulous. Really enjoyed the dial on that guy, and just the color of the whole case. I thought was really striking. Is that something like that was not random, but definitely like unexpected for a brand kind of your caliber to kind of cross over into that space? Is this kind of like where you want to be thoughtful and different and unique, and in the types of collaborations and collaborative projects that you go after?
I think again, it's pushing boundaries. I mean, if it's to do a collaboration with Lange or with Junghans or with like IWC, I mean, of course, there's tons of reasons why we could do, and probably they wouldn't, but we we would do collaborations. But it would be another round watch with a silver dial. Frankly, I think what's interesting is let's find the most unexpected collaboration, because I will learn so much from it. They will learn from it. We will surprise everybody. And the result is something that we will do only once. Again, I think that's why we do collaborations. Two brands coming together, they have to be on different sides of the spectrum. And once you've done it once, I mean, we did it with MBNF. It's difficult to go to anybody else after that. I mean, you cannot be much more creative than that. So everything else would be pretty boring. I thought maybe we could do something with IWC because we have a joint history, and then we could find something. Yeah, why not? But other than that, let's go outside our comfort zone, find something where there's more of a personal fit. And then if there's that personal fit, this on both sides, this willingness to do something, then it's going to be fun. And again, a collaboration is more about the process than the actual result, even though I love the result. It's just learning to work with LA-based crazy team of young guys who like think completely different from the Swiss Germans who get crazy about sometimes the very cool approach of business that they have there, and our really strict like timelines and stuff like that. It's I think that's why there's collaborations. Otherwise, I don't see the interest of doing it. Yeah, I think today most of the brands could sell anything. So why not do something more different, like that pushes a little bit the limit and surprises people? People, I think, get used, or they come to me and say, "Oh, what's going to be the next surprise?" So I think that's why they like it. Sometimes they say, "Well, it's not for me." I think they appreciate the fact that we're doing something different. Maybe the next one it will be for them. So beginning of last year we did something with the Armory, which is very classic, costume croisé. They like. And then we come with the Vantablack, the smallest we can, on a beautiful Japanese bracelet and strap, and small indexes, breguet hands. And then, boom, 6 months later, we go streetwear, like completely the other side of the spectrum. We said 2022 is about like, the fashion industry, and then we wanted to explore and show the spectrum of Moser. And some people hated the first one and some loved the first one. They might be completely different from those who love the second. What's interesting to me was how many our collectors, watch aficionados, started collecting sneakers before they started collecting watches. And they came to us and like, oh my God, it's a dream come true. I have always wanted my two worlds to come together, and you did it.
Sure. Yeah.
And on top of that, I have some pretty cool shoes.
He's got shoes. Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I like those a lot. And I like that you keep them right next to your GPHG awards on the shelf, too. No, I like that you said that. I love that you think that way. Like those two collabs, the one with Mark Cho's, The Armory, and the one with Undefeated, are probably my favorite two releases from you. I think they're both just absolutely beautiful, obviously for very different reasons, but absolutely among my favorites. So I'll advocate for a Worn and Wound collaboration at some point in the future. But I love to see these kind of unexpected collaborations. So, like before we close out, I do see those a handful of GPHG awards behind you. Which one of those are you the most proud of?
Oh, it's it's difficult to say. It's always every single one is a special moment. I think the one with the collaboration with Max was amazing. The one they won before. I mean, the first one we won. You don't see it. It's down there because at that time they didn't make the gold hands. Was in 2006. I think that made Moser on the map. Put them on the map. But for me, of course, the first one, I think we won two in 2020. There was nobody in the audience. I had to make a speech in front of red balloons. It was great, and to come home with those two. They're in the middle of COVID, bringing that to the team. When, they've been doing home office and fighting during that thing. We never closed. They were always there to be able to bring those two. That was a very special moment. But being on stage with my brother last year and being like, hey, it's been 10 years. And we're still there, and we're going stronger and stronger. That was a pretty strong moment as well, and also because there were quite a few smaller brands out there, and say this when we started, everybody was like, independent brands will never survive. Now you're going to be there in 5 years. Now I think seeing like the independents going into this very strong momentum, I think we're just at the beginning of a cycle. Gives so much confidence, and that's why we probably see more and more small brands coming out. The wood and creating amazing products.
Yeah, absolutely love it, and love to see it happen. It's something that we get hugely enthusiastic about here at One and Wound. So it's been so fun to see you guys on this journey, and we're huge fans of what you're doing. Please keep it up. Edouard, thank you so much for joining us today on the One and Wound podcast.
My pleasure. It's been an honor, and thank you guys for your support.
Of course, and we'll look forward to all these new releases at some point here down the line, starting with maybe in a couple weeks from now. So keep an eye out for that on One and Wound. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take care.